We spend so much time and money trying to shock-proof our cities. We build them to withstand floods, economic crashes, you name it. But what if instead of just surviving these shocks, our cities could actually get stronger from them? What if all that disorder wasn't something to fear, but something we could actually harness? So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into why our usual way of planning cities just doesn't work a lot of the time. Then, we're going to unpack the huge difference between resilience, just bouncing back, and this new idea, antifragility. After that, we'll check out a practical toolkit for how to build it, we'll tackle a really important ethical question, and then we'll look at what all this means for the future. All right, let's dive right in. The first piece of the puzzle is the fundamental challenge of urban planning. We try to map things out for decades, but so often things just don't go according to plan. So why is that? I mean, think about it. Any huge city project you've ever heard of, the budgets, the timelines, what they promised it would do, they're almost never right. And yeah, it's frustrating, but there's a really deep reason for it, and it's baked into the very nature of what a city actually is. Okay, get this, because this is the key. Cities have what's called a redoubled complexity. So on one hand, you've got this massive physical system, traffic, power grids, buildings, where one tiny change can cause crazy ripple effects everywhere else. But then on top of that, it's a social system, full of millions of people like you and me, all making our own unpredictable choices every single day. That 1-2 punch makes them basically impossible to predict in the long run. So this is where we need a major shift in our thinking. The old way of doing things was all about hard predictions, trying to nail down exactly what will happen, when, and where. The problem is, that whole approach is super fragile. You get one tiny detail wrong, and the entire plan can just fall apart. The much smarter, more realistic way is to make soft predictions. We stop obsessing over what will happen, and we start asking a better question. How is our city going to respond when the unexpected hits? Is it built to break, or is it built for something better? And that question right there leads us to the absolute heart of this whole thing. For years, the gold standard in planning has been resilience. But there's a new, and I think much more powerful idea on the table, antifragility. Let's really break down the difference. Okay, so resilience, it's a word we all know. It's the ability to take a punch and get right back up. A resilient city is one that can handle a hurricane or a recession and then, get back to normal. It bounces back. And hey, that's a good thing. But, and this is the game-changing question, what if back to normal isn't the best we can do? What if that stress, that disorder from the storm or the economic shock could actually be a spark for real improvement? That's the question that resilience doesn't really have an answer for. And this is the answer. Antifragility. It's a term from the author Nassim Taleb, and it describes systems that don't just endure randomness and chaos, they literally feed on it. The best example is our own immune system. When you get exposed to a germ, your body doesn't just recover. It creates antibodies. It learns. It gets stronger than it was before. That, right there, is antifragility in action. And this chart just lays it all out perfectly. Resilience is basically no harm, no gain. It's like the phoenix from mythology. It gets reborn from the ashes, sure, but it's still the exact same bird. Antifragility, on the other hand, is about gaining from that disorder. It's the hydra. You cut off one head and two grow back even stronger. It's not just about reacting. It's about transforming and innovating. So how in the world does a system do this? Well, the secret sauce is something called optionality, and this is so important. Just think of it like this. Optionality means having a ton of choices without being forced to pick any of them. You have options, not obligations. This gives a city the flexibility to see a sudden shock not just as a threat, but as a potential opportunity, and the freedom to pivot and actually grab that opportunity when it pops up. Let's make this super concrete with an example from the absolute legend of urban planning, Jane Jacobs. Okay, picture a really vibrant, diverse neighborhood. If you set up zoning rules to protect it from some giant, out-of-place skyscraper, that's resilience. You're just protecting what's already good. But here's the other side of the coin. Jacobs also talked about how you create those great neighborhoods in the first place. She was all about things like mixed-use buildings, small walkable blocks, a ton of different businesses. See, those things don't dictate a specific outcome. They create the conditions for life and energy to emerge and evolve all on its own, in ways nobody could have planned. That's antifragility. It's like cultivating a garden, not building a machine. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? So let's get practical.
Let's look at the actual toolkit for building these anti-fragile cities.
The first step, and this is kind of counterintuitive, is about what not to do. It's about getting rid of the things that make our cities brittle in the first place, these fragilizers. So that means no more rigid top-down plans that try to micromanage every little thing. It means we gotta question this obsession with hyper-efficiency, which usually just gets rid of the very things that could save us in a crisis. And it definitely means not putting all of our economic eggs in one basket, like a city that depends completely on tourism. So once we stop doing harm, we can start building with this really cool 3-level framework. The foundation is called via negativa, which is just a fancy Latin way of saying the negative way. It just means you start with simple, broad rules about what not to do, like don't build in a floodplain. Easy. That creates a safe space for freedom. Then, on top of that, you build a shared vision, a real democratic conversation about what kind of city we all want to live in. And finally, that opens up the space of projects, where all kinds of ideas from pop-up parks to new businesses can just happen, all guided by that vision and protected by those simple rules. Now, this is all sounding pretty great, but there's a really important kind of thorny ethical question we've got to tackle. Does this anti-fragility come at a price? And who ends up paying it?
And this is really the heart of the dilemma. Is it fair for the city as a system to learn and get stronger from a crisis if individual people or small businesses get wiped out in the process?
We see this all the time in economics with this idea of creative destruction. A new, innovative company like Netflix comes along and puts Blockbuster completely out of business. Now, the system as a whole, our entertainment world, it got way better. But that's not much comfort to the thousands of people who lost their jobs at Blockbuster, right? Their personal fragility fed the system's anti-fragility.
So is there an ethical way to do this? The source material argues yes, and it's a brilliant 2-step rule. Principle number 1 is dead simple. People come first. You have to protect individual rights and, this is huge, expand their capabilities. That means their real-world options and freedoms like access to good education and healthcare. Then, and only then, do you pursue anti-fragility for the city as a whole, and you have to do it in a way that supports those individual freedoms. The goal isn't just a stronger system. The goal is more opportunity for every single person in it.
Okay, so let's bring it all home. What does this all really mean for how we think about the future of our cities and maybe even our world?
The big takeaway, the thing I really want you to remember, is that anti-fragility isn't just another clever buzzword. What we're really talking about here is a total flip in how we see the future. For centuries, we've been trying to build a world that's stable and predictable, thinking that was the only way to be safe. This idea suggests the exact opposite, that by embracing uncertainty, by embracing volatility, even by embracing failure, we can build societies that aren't just safe, they're alive, they're innovative, and ultimately, they're way, way stronger.
So I want to leave you with this question. Just think about it. Look around your own neighborhood, your own city. Where are the rigid systems that feel like they could just snap in a crisis? And where do you see those little pockets of creativity and experimentation? How could your community, your city, gain from a little bit of disorder? Thanks for joining me.